I would say being able to sing in your true voice, regardless of your audience. Speak your truth.
Welcome to Harmonic Alignment, a podcast that explores the new frontier of energy medicine, bridging the gap between Western medicine and quantum physics, giving you easy and practical solutions. Guided by me, Dr. Larissa Sharipova, and me, Priscilla Koblenz. Join us on a journey discovering your harmonic alignment. On today's episode of Harmonic Alignment, horses. Ever since I was a little girl, I've been fascinated by these beautiful creatures. And nobody understands them better than Kerry Hayes. She is now devoting her life to helping people understand the healing power of using horses in what's called equine therapy to help individuals, businesses, couples, and seekers find more clarity, authenticity, and connection. You're going to want to hear about this healing modality. You're going to want to experience it yourself with Kerry and her magnificent creatures. I had a truly transformative, life-changing experience working with Kerry. Enjoy this episode on equine therapy and check out Kerry's work at experiencing-equine.com. I am so excited. On today's episode of Harmonic Alignment, I am here with the beautiful and talented Kerry Hayes. Kerry, thank you. Thank you for coming and sharing your wisdom with me.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here and talk to you about the experiences that we both have shared.
I had one of the most memorable experiences with you when we did equine therapy with my good friend Nina and Laura. And I am so excited to share this healing modality. I think it's so needed in the world for people to understand the healing power of these beautiful creatures that we call horses.
Yeah.
Starting off, tell me how you got there. What is the weaving path to getting to equine therapy?
I'm an equine-assisted coach, and I focus on life and leadership coaching.
Okay.
There are a lot of equine therapy things, so that's why I make a distinction. It's all healing. The presence of a horse alone is healing. I grew up on a farm. Actually, my grandfather had a dairy farm and had horses to pull the wagons that delivered the milk.
Wow.
So that's where horses began in my world. So as the dairy farm went away, the horses became a thing. We had a boarding facility. We had all sorts of different people about and all sorts of horses. I started riding, as soon as I could walk, I was pointing at horses. And somewhere in my late teens, I started to question what it was, because I was really at that point only interacting with them in a competition.
Okay.
And although I cared for them and all of those things, it was all about the horse shows and the competing and making it to the next level and being frustrated when the animal that I had at the time couldn't do the next level that I wanted to do or the riding that I wanted to do. And I started to really be turned off by that. And I was making adjustments and in my own awareness. But in the meantime, I let horses fall away. And sometimes how somebody just says one sentence and it turns out to be so pivotal. So a friend of mine had said, well, if you're going off to college, you already have the horse thing down. You don't need to go to college for horses. Go to college for business and it will always serve you. So I thought, well, that was great advice. So as I went to school in business, the horses fell a little further and a little further behind in the rearview mirror. And I got excited about a new opportunity. I worked in the business world for a long time. My family still had horses, so it really wasn't ever that far.
Right.
Then at 49, I was reading something that sparked my curiosity. And the book I was reading was Anatomy of a Calling. So clearly I was searching.
You were looking for that the thing to find more fulfillment.
That's right, the thing for more fulfillment. So that's what happened. I got exposed to this world of coaching with horses, and I just jumped in, right up to the top.
I love it. No, you did some really interesting training with this.
I did. Yeah, the first thing I did was some independent exploration and experiences with different organizations. And then I signed up for a year-long program out in Arizona. And it was personal development pretty much with the horses. And then from there, I wanted to be able to go into groups and focus on team building and corporate stuff, non-corporate stuff, just, be able to work with groups and teams. And so that took me into a program that was held in England.
Wow. So you went overseas to continue your equine education and equine therapy here.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
So
that must have been amazing.
It was amazing. And I had some great friends attend the program with me, and the instructors from that and a couple of the other participants really have become lifelong friends. And as a follow-up, we all gathered in Ireland one time and explored not only the work that we had learned in England, but all the work that we had brought to the work, ahead of that. And so we've all developed our own styles, and it's just been such fun to explore and open our minds and our hearts to being of service to people and to horses.
I love that you said you all have unique expression of this work, because you're bringing your background and expertise, but also the horses are different. You're all working with very different animals.
That's right. But the animals, although they are different and they find their styles, and I think we can talk about that a little more when we talk about your experience with my horses, but there's a lot of commonality. There's the basics of what happens, how they communicate, how they interact with people. The science of it is that horses are prey animals, and they have very keen senses in order to preserve their energy. They're not fighters. If there's a danger, they don't hang around and fight. They flee. And yet as herbivores, right, they need to basically spend most of their time eating, not running. So what happens is that they then develop all these really keen senses in order to determine if a predator walking through their space is something to be concerned about or not.
Wow. So they're picking up on energy fields of whatever's coming in their path.
That's right. And we like to quantify it for scientific purposes as heart rate, respiration, but it's the energetic levels.
So they're sensing your heart rate. If you're walking by them and you're not happy or freaking out, they're going to know.
And it's funny because we all accept, and we've all grown up hearing, don't show the horse you're afraid,
right. Yeah, that's the worst thing you can do.
But the reality is you can't not do that.
Yeah.
If you're truly afraid, the best thing you can do is tell the horse you're afraid.
Right.
Because then you're in alignment.
Right.
They're more afraid of you if there's chaos inside. So
if you're not acknowledging,
you're acknowledging. That's right.
Wow.
Yeah. If your energy is chaotic, you may cause harm to them. So they're going to be like, I'm out of here.
That is so interesting and exciting to understand that horses have this incredible gifts that they're giving us.
Yes, they are. Because people are the same way. We just don't understand it. We've all had experiences where you meet somebody new and you either have an instant kinship or you have an instant,
not sure about that one.
Not sure about that one. And typically it's an energetic response to whether they're in alignment or not. Because you just met them, right? So you don't know what their history, philosophy, you don't know much about them, but your body knows there's chaotic energy there.
So are horses helping humans calm their nervous system?
Yes, absolutely.
So a person who's been through a lot of trauma, I've even heard a lot of soldiers are now using equine therapy for PTSD.
That's right. Yeah. And horses have been used in therapy for a long time, so we have understood the connection to horses and the human nervous system for many years. When I was 13 years old, a million moons ago, I volunteered with a program called Pegasus. And so we were helping people with Down syndrome, children and adults, with some walking issues, because the movement of the walking with the horse will, sitting on that will create a rocking in the pelvis that changes the spinal fluid movement.
Really? Okay.
Yes. So that's kind of how that began with horses and therapy. I don't know who pioneered horses with PTSD, but that's been huge. And I have had the privilege of being in training programs with soldiers that have had such profound experiences that they want to become trained in the equine-assisted coaching in order to help others.
So when you say coaching, can you kind of like walk people through the magic of how you coach with horses and humans?
Yeah, sure. So what I do is, based on the person's goals, I create biomimicry and somatic practices for that person to interact with a horse all on the ground, and they're able
Meaning
to,
they're not on the horse.
they're not on the horse.
Okay.
Right.
And when you say biomimicry and somatic, can you
Yes.
explain those if people aren't really familiar with those?
Of course. So biomimicry is the study of learning from nature.
Okay.
Right. So we're mimicking a biologic system of, the hive of bees, a particular animal and how it moves, an anthill, all those kind of things. So with the horses, we do some herd observation exercises where you watch a group of horses move around and try to understand how they're communicating non-verbally, because they can do that very clearly, very well, and from quite distance. They don't.
Horses can communicate
in groups,
long
Yeah.
distances. I
Yeah.
love that.
Have you ever seen the big flocks of swallows, and they're doing all that aerodynamics all in a big group? So that's an instance that's been studied, in terms of biomimicry, in order to understand how teams and groups can move with, that same kind of ease and energetic connection as other animals do.
That's amazing. Like they're tapping into a frequency or the field, and then all the animals are riding the same wave, sort of.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So with the horses, in a group exercise, we're watching for a tick of the ear, or we're watching for a flick of an eye, we're watching for a hind hoof just resting, or, we're watching for an alert position where they might, head up, looking around, that kind of stuff. What sounds are they making? Are they frozen? Because that's one of the next things. If they're not fleeing, they can freeze. And then there's nothing happening, or you think nothing's happening. So all things that we look for when we're understanding what they're communicating about their environment. Yeah.
And then how does this help individuals that you're coaching? What does the back and forth communication look like?
Yes. So this is where the somatics come in, right? Because somatics is being in the body. And when you're in the presence of an animal with such a huge energetic life force, you feel that in your body. We can do some exercises to draw that attention to your body. What's changed? How do you feel now before you go in the presence of the horse? Now you're in the arena, you've had some interactions. Now let's do that same body scan. Is that buzzing that you felt in your chest moved, released, changed? Is that pit in your stomach moved, eased, shifted, in some way? That all gives us information as to how we move. So if your goal, for instance, is to be able to be more authentic so that you can lead a team of people, you're going to want to understand how you're feeling before you verbalize something to your team. And you're going to want to understand when your team throws something back at you, how you're catching it.
How you're receiving their words.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it a roadblock that stops here? Is it a roadblock that stops here? Do you assimilate it in through your body and then reply thoughtfully?
Right.
Who
You're
you are.
helping improve communication at a fundamental.
At a fundamental level, yes.
And making you aware of how you're communicating or how you're not communicating. Because I think everyone thinks they're good communicators until they realize, oh, no, I'm really not. I'm not been speaking my truth. I've been telling you what I think you want to hear. Or what I think will be more effective.
Or what I've been conditioned to tell you.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Yes.
And so when it's not authentic or what you're saying isn't in resonance, this is where the horse comes in to be like, I want to call it the truth detector, the lie detector test, the horses.
Yes, exactly. So when you're giving a speech and it's not in alignment with who you are, the horse is going to be like, I'm out of here.
Forget you, buddy.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So I have had people practice keynote speeches in front of the horse, just
to see if they were resonating, if it was authentic, if it was the right tone, the right energy.
Yes.
Were they able then to see certain parts of the speech that didn't work?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the overall style. Sometimes it was an overall style. Like I had one woman where there was no problem with the content, but underneath she was more comedic and laid back. And in this presentation she was giving, she felt that the audience wanted a very business-like presentation. And so she was not putting her personality into it. Okay. And the horses were like, yeah, no, we're not really into that. And then when she said the same words over again in a much more fluid, aligned state with a little humor here and there, they were like, okay, yeah, we're good with you now.
Right. Okay. Yeah, you're good. You're putting the right energy out.
That's right. Right. And it's not what I say the horses are doing. You'll feel it. Again, back to the somatics. You're going to feel in your body that whatever the horse is doing over there, all of a sudden your nervous system just calms. Or whatever the horse is doing over there, your nervous system is just going a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. This leads us into what I like to call a play risk cycle. So you take a risk, you try something new, and it becomes a playful thing because there's no harm in it.
Right.
Right? You get to say whatever you want. You get to do whatever you want. You can go off and dance. You can break into song.
Right. That's right. I love that. Oh, yeah. I remember singing to the horses. Yeah, we can do that.
Yes.
Can I share my experience?
Please.
Gosh, I think this has been 2 years now. My good friend Nina, which I don't think she'll mind me sharing this, and my friend Laura, we were talking about going into business together. Right. And we had all met for a weekend to like really do the work and lay out the business plan and create the company and come up with the name and where our mission was. And so it just so happened you were working with Nina and doing some equine therapy, and she suggested this, and I'm like, okay. I didn't really have any expectation or even know what to expect. It changed everything for us. It really did. So the three of us are in the ring and we're watching the horses, and the horses are going berserk. It was so cool to see. We actually started with a whiteboard. Yes. You asked some basically coaching questions. You were coaching us to see where we were in alignment, what our goals were, what we were working toward, and asking us each questions to contribute to that. I remember that we could not make the horses follow us, whatever we did. It did not work. We were not in alignment. We couldn't communicate, and we couldn't get the horses to do what we needed to do. It was interesting because it was so frustrating in one way, but it was also very eye-opening. Within 24 hours, we had decided not to go into business together.
I was
You saved us a lot of time and money. I just have to say that. And it's all unfolding for our highest good. And we all get that.
Yeah.
All three of us have gone into incredibly beautiful separate paths. And we're still friends to this day.
I was going to say, you're still very connected.
Oh, very connected. In fact, we'll have a call shortly, and love those ladies. But if we had not done that, I'm not sure we'd still be friends, because we probably would have gone through a lot of heartbreak and hit a lot of walls trying to make it work. Because on one hand, none of us wanted to disappoint the other, but we also weren't speaking our truth, and maybe didn't even know what our truth was in that process.
Yes. Yeah, that's very likely.
Well, you had mentioned, when I was really fascinated about this, is that you've helped couples. Can you share some of those experiences for what happens in those situations?
Yeah, it's very similar to what you went through with the group. If you remember, when we started the day with you and your friends, potential partners, everybody got individual exercises.
Okay.
So that you were more in alignment with yourselves, so you connected with the horse. So there were experiences of you affecting the horse and the horse affecting you individually. And then when the running around and chaos began was when we were doing the combined exercise. What happens when you bring these three individual beautiful souls together and want to make one path out with the three of you? And the horses were like, wow, there's a lot of energy here.
It's like, trying to make a tornado go in one direction. And that's what the three of us felt like coming together.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
So you can see that in like say a husband and wife.
Yeah, a husband and wife can come in, they can do individual things, make that connection, start to feel comfortable, understand how they interact with an animal, improve their own personal communication and energetic alignment. And then what happens when two people go into the arena at the same time?
That's the real test.
That provides a lot of feedback for them. Typically, when I work with couples, I don't ask history. I'm not there for therapy or counseling.
Right.
So I'm not looking at what brought you here. I'm looking at where you want to go and how can I help you get there.
Oh, I love that. Where do you want to go and how can I help you get there? We're done with the past.
That's right.
It's not serving anymore. But if you want to keep moving in the future, can we do things that can help bring us more into harmonic alignment?
And more harmonic alignment affects the past.
It's going to have a ripple effect.
It's going to have a ripple effect.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, you can do bigger groups. So explain some of the reasons that groups would come and what would be some of the goals and how that plays out.
Yeah. So the groups can be one organization that comes. So a leader might bring a team of 5 or 6 people. Sometimes it's because they're all working independently. They're working from home. They don't get to the office, or it might be a sales organization and they're different territories all around the country. And so this is sort of a team building exercise. Come together once a year to do something, and this is what they choose to do.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're working at a company, we went and did equine therapy. How cool is that?
Yeah. Yeah. Other times groups are formed just by individuals who all, have the same desire as far as what the workshop might be focused on, whether it's writing or for business building or, some other feature. Every individual finds there's always common threads, And so whether you have time to sit and watch someone else having an individual session with the horse, or whether it's a group activity with the horses, there's just all interesting things to be learned. I learned that firsthand from the training piece. It's mostly individuals in the arena one at a time, but you learn so much sitting there watching. And sometimes you see more when you're watching than when you're actually in it.
Is it expanding your own self-awareness?
It is.
By watching someone else's interaction?
That's right.
And you start to really understand the unseen or the energy behind what we say and do.
Right.
I love that. Is there some things you think people need to understand about this modality of what it is and isn't?
That's an interesting question. It can be just about anything. One thing it can't be is a way to learn to manipulate the system.
Oh, interesting. Okay. You
Yeah.
can't fake it.
You can't fake it. You can't just come and say, I'm going to learn.
I'm going to master this and, egomaniac. You can't just come in, this will be a piece of cake.
Yes.
It'll take you by surprise.
It will. It will.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you have to be so authentic and honest to even try to have this experience.
No, it's come in and you'll see what authenticity is.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah. It's different for everybody, right? And
Yeah.
and in the beginning, it's hard to know what your authentic self is. So, having those kind of experiences allows you to really tap in.
Tell me about the horses you work with.
So Finley was my first. I travel around, so I work with a lot of different horses, but Finley was the first one that I brought into my care full time. And I like to call him the professor.
Finley is the professor,
Yes,
well named.
Yes. He is very much aligned with this work. He's a little opinionated, so he's clear, maybe is a better way to say that. He's very clear about how he feels about you and what you have to say and what you put out there. So he gives a lot of information. Mo was the second one that came into my herd. And Mo is interesting because he's giant. He's very, very large. And so most people are immediately intimidated. So it starts from a whole different dynamic place than a session with Finley. He really is just a gentle giant, as you know. And he works at a much slower pace. He's all heart. He is very somatic with his body. So if you have something going on in your body, he's going to show that. So he's fascinating to watch for me. And then Mighty Man is the little munchkin that is new to the herd. And he hasn't done a lot of coaching yet. He steps up when he wants to. I let him come in. This is how Mo learned. Mo learned from Finley.
Gotcha.
I'd be coaching with Finley, and Mo would just be at liberty to walk around. And when he wanted to step in and say something, he did. And so this is where Mighty Man is now. He just comes into a session and does his thing. And when he's super curious or has something to say, you'll know.
He'll add in. He'll add into the conversation. And if he's not interested, he's out.
That's right. That's right.
Oh,
Maybe not interested, but still learning.
Okay.
Still learning what it is that this job is.
Right.
You know, horses have different jobs, and they take that seriously, I think. I really feel like they take it seriously, and they want to understand what their job is. So even when I first got Mo, he was in a hunter-jumper program, all of the competition scene, and I put him into a dressage program, a different modality, a different discipline of riding. But it took him a little bit, but then he was like, oh, okay, now I get it. I'm going to relax and I'm going to do this job knowing that I don't have to anticipate the next part, because the next part doesn't come. That was part of this discipline, right? Then when we started the coaching work with him, he just followed Finley around like, wait a minute. Oh, I just have to be a horse?
I love it. I love it. What's the best part of this work for you?
Oh, gosh. All the people I meet. During the lockdown, I partnered with another colleague, and we hosted an online summit since people weren't out in the world. And I was the one in charge of recruiting speakers, presenters, and I just cold called. I just picked up the phone and I called some of the biggest names in the industry, and they were happy to speak to me and they were happy to participate. I would hope to get off the phone quick enough before the tears came, because then I'd be like, oh my gosh, thank you.
Well, it sounds like the people doing this work are so open-hearted and loving.
Yeah.
They care about animals. They care about people. They want to make the world a better place.
That's right.
Some fundamental healing that can happen with working with these animals.
Every day. Every client.
I want to add in one of the other parts of my healing with, I believe it was with Finley, is that you asked us before we start to put our hand on the horse and to ask a question. I put my hand on the horse and I thought, okay, what am I going to ask? I was like, oh, well, maybe I should ask why I don't have more animals in my life. And I grew up on a farm and I always had lots of animals, but we really at that point I have a cat that was older, and then we had 2 goats, and I thought, all this talk about getting a dog. Everyone said, you moved to the country, you got to get a dog. And I had a lot of resistance about that. And when I put my hand on Finley, I basically said, okay, should I be getting more animals, or why don't I have more animals in my life? And a short time later, there was a dog, a miniature schnauzer, that was on the property, and it came right up to me, and it brought up a childhood tragedy. When I was in 4th grade, I believe, my dog, who was a miniature schnauzer named Buttons and Bows, was shot in front of me, and I watched her die. And I think that there was such a block on my heart. That was the first, I got her when I was in kindergarten. I love that dog. I went everywhere with her. I did not realize I was still suffering or still grieving or was not going to allow another animal in my heart like that. Because cats are very different than dogs.
Yes.
I mean, cats are very standoffish. That's easy, but a dog really gets to you at a heart level. And it brought all that back up from years ago. And I hadn't even thought about it. That was my resistance to that. So that's a lot.
That was a lot. And the fascinating thing about that was that dog lived upstairs with tenants that lived above the barn and was not usually in the presence of the horses.
So the dog, so she just showed up.
She just sort of came out of nowhere and showed up.
I think the horse called her in. So it was a really, really beautiful, powerful experience for me. And one I will always remember on multiple levels. Yeah. So thank you. I'm so grateful for that. How can people find your work and how do you do sessions? Give us all the details.
Okay. So my company is Experiencing Equine. So everything, social media and website is experiencingequine.com. There are programs, workshops that come up that'll be on the programs page. If you're an individual and you want to come, you can just find a program that fits and sign up. And then otherwise you can come for one-on-one sessions. You can gather a group of your friends and come, or if you are an entrepreneur and you have some employees or all teachers of yoga or meditation or whatever, and you want to come as a group, I bet that's a fun group. Yeah. Bring your yoga mat and we're going to go hang out with horses. I love that. That's right.
How long does a session normally run?
Typically, when it's one person, we have a lot of flexibility, but we aim to wrap up at around an hour. It typically runs an hour and 20 minutes. When it's a group, a few people, might be a few hours. Workshops are typically half day. It can be full day. You have to take some time with the horses, and then you have to take some time with yourself in your journal. And, somatic experiences are things you have to journal about at that time.
So you make sure that there's time for people to really feel that in their body and then to write it out.
Yes.
I love that. Kerry, you are so heart-centered and you are trying to share this medicine with the world. If you had the opportunity to share something with the world, what would you like to share with humanity?
That's a big question. Ask yourself if you are more kind to others or more kind to self. And whatever you answer to that, then show more kindness to the other. So if you find you're more kind outside the home, then you're going to learn to become more kind outside the home until it shifts and you grow just exponentially to bring that kindness into your home and your heart. And then the reverse is also true. If you're very kind at home and to yourself and to your family, but you're a little put off by people outside, then just love on your family and yourself more and more and more until it projects out onto people.
I love that. Giving love back and forth. One of our other questions we always ask is, what is your version of harmonic alignment?
I would say being able to sing in your true voice, regardless of your audience. Speak your truth.
Speak your truth. Sing in your true voice.
Yeah,
I love that. Well, I can't wait to come out and have some more equine therapy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. What a beautiful healing modality. We'll have to post some pics of your beautiful horses when this podcast episode comes out. Kerry, thank you. What a joy.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. It was great.
Are you ready for your Energy for Life bioenergetic nest scan? Dr. Larissa Sharapova and myself, Priscilla Koblenz, offer personal, private, 90-minute consults to get you back to optimal health and well-being. For more details, visit the show notes or check out harmonicalignment.co. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Harmonic Alignment. If something resonated with you, we would love to hear about it. Please consider leaving us a 5-star review and subscribing so you don't miss an upcoming episode. Thank you. The information contained in this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and not intended for the purpose of diagnosing, treating, curing, or preventing any disease. Before using any products referenced on the podcast, consult with your healthcare provider. Carefully read all labels and directions. The products and information received through the podcast should not be used to replace a consultation or advice from your healthcare provider. If you suspect you have a medical problem or have any healthcare questions, please promptly call your healthcare provider. This podcast, including Dr. Larissa Sharapova and Priscilla Koblenz, and the producers are not responsible for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained in this podcast. This podcast may contain endorsements and advertisements for products or services. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct financial benefit to the product or services referenced.